28% of Americans have exactly $0 saved for retirement. Not a little saved, not behind, zero. And I'm not talking about 22-year-olds who just started working. I'm talking about people between 50 and 64, people who are months away from needing that money. But here's the number that should actually keep you up at night: 40%. That's the percentage of older Americans who retire and rely on only Social Security for their income. Social Security, the program that was never designed to stand alone. The program that replaces on average just 40% of what you made while you were working. Most financial planners say you need 70 to 80% replacement. Social Security gives you 40. The gap between those two numbers, that's where your retirement actually lives or dies. And there is one financial tool, one specific, legally protected, misunderstood instrument that closes that gap better than anything else ever invented. Most people don't have it. Most people don't understand it. And the people who do have it are often making one of three catastrophically expensive decisions about it without even realizing it. That tool is a pension. And what I'm about to tell you about pensions is not what your HR department. Tens of thousands of dollars. Here's what nobody explains clearly. In the United States, the word pension is doing the work of three completely different things. The first is a defined benefit plan, what most people picture when they hear pension. A formula, your years of service multiplied by your salary multiplied by an accrual rate. Do the math and you get a monthly check for the rest of your life. Market crashes, you still get the check. Company has a bad quarter, you still get the check. The second is a defined contribution plan. The 401k, the 403b, the 457. This isn't a pension the way your grandfather had a pension. This is a pile of money that you are personally responsible for turning into income. The market tanks 40% in your retirement year, your problem. You live to 97 and run out at 82, also your problem. And the third is something called a cash balance plan. A hybrid that looks like a 401k on your statement but is technically a defined benefit plan underneath. It feels like an account. It's actually a promise. Most people can't tell the difference, and that confusion costs them when it's time to choose between the lump sum and the monthly benefit. One word, three completely different retirement realities. And your employer, your HR department, your benefits pocket, they almost never explain which one you actually have. Here's what the real numbers look like right now. And I mean right now. This is March 2023 data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the most current snapshot we have. In the private sector, only 15% of workers have access to a traditional pension, a defined benefit plan, the kind that promises a specific monthly amount for life. 15%. In 2008, that number was 22%. So in 15 years, the percentage of private sector workers with a real pension dropped by nearly a third. Meanwhile, in state and local government, 86% of workers have access to a traditional pension. Same country, same economy, completely different retirement system, depending entirely on who signs your paycheck. Now look at what retirees are actually living on today. Census Bureau data for 2024 shows that among Americans 65 and older, only 30% are receiving pension income. The median annual pension payment for those who do receive one, $16,460 a year. Social Security, 83% of retirees receive it. Median annual payment, $20,520. Put those two together, pension plus Social Security, and you have roughly $37,000 a year. Not lavish, but workable. Now take the pension away, which is the reality for 70% of retirees. You're left with Social Security alone, $20,520 a year, $1,710 a month. That is the retirement that the shift away from pensions has quietly built for most Americans, and most people don't see it coming until they're already in it. Here's the thing that should be called out directly. The most common thing people say about pensions is it's guaranteed. And that statement is technically true, practically complicated, and financially dangerous if you stop at the word guaranteed without understanding what comes after it. Because here's what guaranteed actually means. The Pension Benefit Guaranty Corporation, the PBGC, is the federal agency that insures private sector pensions. If your company goes bankrupt and your pension plan fails, the PBGC steps in and takes over. Sounds reassuring. And it is, to a point. For 2026, the PBGC's maximum guaranteed benefit for a single employer plan at age 65 is $7,789.77 per month. That's over $93,000 a year. For most workers, that ceiling will never be an issue. But there's a second category of pensions that most people don't know exist: multi-employer plans. These are pension plans shared across multiple companies in the same industry. Think Teamsters, think construction unions, think Central States. And for those plans, the PBGC guarantee formula is completely different. 100% of the first $11 of monthly benefit per year of service, 75% of the next $33. For a 30-year worker, that works out to roughly $12,870 per year, not per month, per year. And unlike Social Security, that number is not adjusted for inflation ever. The Central States Pension Fund, one of the largest multi-employer funds in the country, received $35.8 billion in federal assistance in 2021 just to prevent benefit cuts to over 350,000 retirees. $35.8 billion. One fund, one rescue. Your pension may be guaranteed. The question is how much of it is guaranteed, under what conditions, and against what specific type of failure. Those are three very different questions, and most people never think to ask them. Here is the quiet wealth destroyer that makes financial planners lose sleep. Most private sector pensions have no cost of living adjustment, no COLA. That means the check you get when you retire at 65 is the exact same nominal number you'll get at 75, at 85, at 95. Let me show you what that actually looks like. Imagine you retire in 2025 with a $2,500 monthly pension. That's $30,000 a year. Comfortable by many standards. At 3% annual inflation, which is actually below the historical average, that $2,500 in purchasing power becomes roughly $1,859 by the time you've been retired for 10 years. By 20 years, it's worth about $1,380 in today's dollars. The number on your check never changed. The life you can afford with that number changed enormously. The PBGC itself states explicitly that its multi-employer guarantee is, quote, not adjusted for inflation or cost of living increases. That's not a detail. That's a retirement plan. And most people absorb this information at retirement when it's too late to plan around it, instead of at 45 or 50, when that knowledge would change every single decision they make. This is the moment in the video where I need your full attention. If you have a traditional pension and your employer offers you a choice between a monthly check for life and a lump sum payment, what most people think about when they hear lump sum is this: that's a lot of money. I could invest it. I could leave it to my kids. I could control it. And all of that is true. What people don't think about is this: the monthly check is longevity insurance. It pays as long as you live. If you live to 92, you collect for 27 years. The math looks very different at 92 than it did at 65. The lump sum is a pile of money that you must turn into income. In turning a pile of money into income that lasts an unknown number of years while managing inflation, sequence of returns risk, healthcare costs, and your own behavioral impulses is one of the most complex financial tasks a non-professional can attempt. Behavioral economists have documented something specific about this choice. Most people massively underestimate how long they'll live. They anchored to an age around 80, maybe 82. The actual life expectancy for a 65-year-old American today is closer to 85 for men, 87 for women. And if you make it to 65 healthy, your odds of living to 90 are significantly higher than the averages suggest. The lump sum is not inherently wrong. For some people, people in poor health, people without dependents, people with exceptional investment discipline, it can be the right choice. But it is never the obvious choice, and it is often the expensive choice, especially when the reason someone picks it is not financial planning. It's the psychological pull of seeing a large number and confusing size with security. Let me give you the picture that explains why pensions became a political and generational fault line. In 1980, about 38% of private sector workers participated in a traditional pension plan, real pensions, defined benefit, monthly check for life. Today, that number is 15% access, with actual participation even lower. This shift happened for multiple reasons. Longer lifespans made the lifetime guarantee more expensive for companies. Accounting rule changes made pension liabilities more visible on balance sheets. The 401k, which was originally designed as a supplement to pensions, gradually became a replacement for them because it shifted all the risk from the employer to the employee. And here is what that shift actually produced. Among Americans who retired before this shift, people who were working in the 1970s and 80s, the majority have at least some pension income. They have a floor. Among Americans who will retire in the next 10 to 20 years, people currently in their 40s and 50s who built their careers entirely in the post-pension era, 70% have no pension income to look forward to. They have Social Security and whatever they manage to save in a 401k, and whatever the market does between now and their last day of work. Two generations, two completely different experiences of the word retirement. And the research is clear about the outcome difference. The Federal Reserve's 2024 survey of household economic well-being found that among retirees without additional income sources, only 52% say they are doing at least okay financially. Among retirees with pension income, that number climbs significantly. The pension is not a luxury. It is the difference between a retirement you chose and a retirement that happens to you. If you're watching this and you have a pension, here is the most important thing I can tell you. Get your summary plan description. Today, not when you're 60, today. This document tells you your accrual formula, your vesting schedule, your survivor benefit options, and whether you have any cost of living adjustment built in. Most people have never read it. Most people couldn't find it. That document is worth more than anything I could tell you in this video because it is the specific truth about your specific pension, not a general explanation. When you read it, look for 4 things specifically. 1, your benefit formula. What percentage per year of service? Based on what definition of pay? Final average salary, highest 3 years, highest 5. 2, your vesting schedule. When do you actually own this benefit? Some plans vest at 3 years, some at 5. Some have graduated vesting. If you leave before you're vested, you leave with nothing. 3, your survivor options. If you take the full single life benefit and you die first, your spouse gets 0. The joint and survivor option costs you a percentage of your monthly benefit, but it continues after you're gone. That trade-off deserves more thought than most people give it. 4, whether your plan is single employer or multi-employer. The PBGC guarantee structure is dramatically different for each. This matters if your company or your industry ever runs into financial trouble. If you're in the 85% of private sector workers who don't have a traditional pension, you're not out of options, but your options require that you build the structure deliberately because no employer is building it for you. The most pension-like thing you can do with a 401k is to eventually annuitize a portion of it, buy a lifetime income stream using your accumulated savings. It won't have the same tax advantages or employer backing that a pension has, but it solves the same core problem. You can't outlive it. Social Security is also a form of longevity insurance, and every year you delay claiming past 62 increases your benefit by roughly 6 to 8%. For most people, that delay is the highest guaranteed return available to them anywhere in the financial system. A Vanguard study found that Americans at all income levels are on track to fall short of what they need in retirement, even accounting for Social Security. The gap is real. And unlike most financial problems, it gets more expensive the longer you wait to address it. Here's the thing that stays with me about all of this. Pensions didn't disappear because they stopped working. They disappeared because they were expensive and because moving the risk from employers to employees was more profitable for the companies offering them. That's not cynical, that's just what the data shows. The shift happened quietly over decades in HR memos and plan amendments and legislative changes that most people never read. And the result is a retirement crisis that is hiding in plain sight, behind a number at the bottom of your pay stub and the assumption that someone has been managing this for you. No one is managing it for you. But here's what's actually true. Understanding the architecture of pensions, what they are, what they guarantee, what they don't, and how they interact with everything else in your financial life, that understanding is available right now to anyone willing to go get it. The truth about pensions isn't complicated, it's just inconvenient. And inconvenient truths have a way of becoming expensive surprises if you keep looking away from them. You've watched this far, that means you're not looking away. That's already the hardest part. If this changed how you think about your retirement setup, drop a comment below and tell me, pension, 401k, or both. And if you want more of this, real data, no sponsors, no financial product deals, support Nate Invests directly. Links in the description, or just share this with one person who has a pension decision coming. That's worth more than you think. Subscribe if you haven't. Understanding the difference actually costs you money if you don't. See you in the next one.